We now begin Book 2 of The Child Within, titled Related Papers. Foreword. The following papers are the real meat of the book. They are independent of one another, each standing on its own like a single key on a piano. Each paper makes a specific point among the thousands that might be of interest to the seeker. Yet, every paper is related to a point or points in the preceding chapters, as well as to the other related papers. Some of these relationships are obvious and immediate. Some are more indirect. I consider these papers to be more powerful in their relationship to one another than by themselves. The entire book has been written with these synergistic overtones in mind, and they represent the means by which I have been able to communicate beyond the limits of intellectualism and its limiting words. The reader needs no special ability to make this synergism happen. It is automatic for all of us. The related papers, like everything in the preceding chapters, the bones, are taken from recent journals and correspondence, except when noted otherwise. While an effort has been made to dovetail and fit the bones into a progression similar to the progression by which one awakens to the subjective truth, no such effort has been made with the related papers. They are arranged here in a nearly random order and may make very little sense if read before the preceding chapters have been read. The earnest reader can see and feel something special through various combinations of papers and his own experience. The reader who becomes familiar with the material will find hundreds of enlightening relationships on his own. These insights become the reader's own immaculate glimpses beyond the limits of intellectualism. Such glimpses constitute the real basis for learning and teaching. Some papers together make powerful chords, overtones. Others, side by side, make apparent discords, even contradictions. But the many messages of this book lie more in the harmonious overtones the reader will feel and know independently of words than in the information conveyed. Related Papers 1 through 5. Who is Han? Dear Jack, in answer to your question, who the hell is Han? The Han I write about is a mythical character representing one's own inner being. Han is the nearest one can come to his own self-discovery before consciously becoming that self. Han is one's own pre-existing identity just before the transfiguration at the top of the mountain of understanding, Dashan. Han answers our question. Han is the chief angel among the world's tangible angels. Han is not God and doesn't claim to be. Han even makes certain one doesn't ignorantly call the Son of God, God. Han is as close as one comes to his real identity before consciously being that one. Yet, Han insists that one isn't all there is to God. God is even more, existing within and beyond the limits of awareness. Han says that awareness is infinite, as God is infinite, but Godhead exists even beyond infinity. Herein, Han and the Gnostics of old are in grand accord. Han tells of the three that are one, and of the one who is three to infinity. Han is the balance between Godhead and tangibility, the Logos. Han is identity I. Han is the muse of my journal and yours. Han is a good guy. Okay? 2 basic questions answered. Laurel asked, "What do you mean by quantum mankind?" In these papers, by quantum mankind, I mean all mankind. When we begin looking at the beehive as a single organism, that is a quantum view. When we start looking at all mankind as a single external organism, then we are looking at the appearance of quantum man in our own head. Laurel also asked, "And what do you mean by cosmology?" A cosmology is a creation story. Moses wrote a cosmology, the universe from nothing, in the first chapter of Genesis. The particle physicists are examining a cosmology, something from Big Bang, as they work back to the beginning of matter, some 15 billion years ago. It is good to note this parallel when we are talking about retrogressive progression early in the book. The mathematician intuits and knows. Then the particle physicist looks into his accelerators to confirm the mathematician's logical knowing. Physics is a confirming activity. Math is designated the pure science. Our individual intuitive knowing, which comes as a glimpse of light, is the pure science and is confirmed in the tangible world as sciences and our own discoveries. Do you see this? Now, our subjectivism allows us to lower the veil, and we look out into the world for the confirmation of our knowing. This is not unlike the physicist looking out to see technology following later to put his ideas to work for mankind, or an inventor looking to see his invention manufactured. Our subjective glimpses of truth are eventually confirmed on the objective scene. Added thought. Cosmology explains half the metaphysical reversal inherent in the first and last equation. Subjectivism, when understood, explains another part of the reversal, inside, outside. One doesn't yet really understand either of these equations until he considers them both, not necessarily simultaneously. While cosmology and science works on the first and last equation, heading back to Big Bang, but not beyond it, the child within brings us to consider the inside and outside flow and its relationship to cosmology. When these and the other balances are brought together, it seems we get back before Big Bang to the primal self-image. That is where these words are intended to take us, bring us. How does an old soldier dare to write a book about the truth? There is something incongruous about a man who fought as an infantry soldier in 2 wars, slashing his way from mortal combat and destruction to esoteric self-discovery and light, isn't there? Somehow it doesn't fit, unless, of course, one makes the connection and intuits how human extremity leads to spiritual insight, how darkness makes the light plain, and how guilt uncovers primordial guiltlessness. If one has heard of Arjuna's selection on the battlefield, where the final struggle between light and darkness is waged, he might not wonder how I dare write this book. This old soldier is presently engaged in his final struggle, warfare of the most primal kind, for which he has been not one bit less than a worthy candidate for a special mystery, duly, truly prepared. That preparation was not of myself, but of another. I have not made a single move that was not part of this moment as I sit here disclosing the lessons learned. Not a move to the right or left, not a word has come to me or gone out from me that was not part of a plan, not of my own planning, but of another's. I have been carefully, painstakingly, most often against my will, brought to this moment in linear time to reveal a mystery. As certainly as this is true for me, it is true for the reader as well. One who reads these words has a right to question them. He should. Moreover, he should put them to the test, even those that seem most obviously true. I welcome your doubt. I've asked all who have studied with me over the years to question everything I talk about and believe nothing until it has been put to the test and found worthy. But reader, when something begins stirring within you in the paragraphs and pages ahead, an inner stirring that comes softly and unexpectedly with unmistakable authority, then you might be wise to touch and take note of the idea you feel then and note the theme this book contains. I have been given these words to live, prove, confirm, and make plain, so those who read them may run. Why me, an old soldier who has lived through the inhumanity of warfare? You will surely see one day. You will surely see. The secret of the seed. When the seed first falls to ground, it contains its own final flowering within itself. Deep within, the seed remembers where it came from. It remembers the former plant and the flower that produced it. It remembers by way of an internal imprint of the original plant. One can actually see that imprint when he looks at the seed's internal structure with a powerful microscope. I am told this is literally the way it is with tree seed. Well now, what has this to do with the secrets? As the years go on, and as the single seed is broken down into its roots, branches, and leaves, the seed's own internal secret is the knowledge that, at the end of its span in time, it will bloom and seed again. Individual man has essentially forgotten his own inmost secrets. In civilization, there have always been those mystics who have known of the quantum human seed's inner secret and its relationship to the beginning of time and space. These people, having found the beginning, have found the end as well. Their views of civilization seem remarkably similar. They speak of the society of mankind moving in the direction of his own quantum blossoming, thence to seed and finally rest. In every culture, the prophets have admonished the people to strive to be a conscious part of the seed which will be, most say, planted again in enigmatic time. Listen carefully. One sees the title of an essay, The Secret of the Seed. He thinks the author is going to discuss some revelation that an examination of the seed will reveal to the reader. It doesn't seem to occur to most of us, or it didn't to me, that it is possible the author has written about a secret that the seed knows, not one we will know when we examine the seed or read the essay. Such is the secret I have found, and would disclose if I am given the subtle words to string. One hears about a guru somewhere and thinks that teacher can reveal something wonderful to him. It hasn't occurred to him yet that the guru is part of the consciousness observing the guru, and that the teacher out there may very well represent the external view of the viewer's own mystery within. Ah so, as Han would say, ah so. Could it be that this volume you are reading is not outside yourself, but is the expanding consciousness of you, the reader? Of course it is. The value is in the reading consciousness, not the book. But the book has its place in the world and is entitled to recognition and credit if it is telling the truth in new ways the reader can understand. We only slowly learn to give credit to our external views that point to our internal nature. Old Croak and the House of Mirrors, a story of discontent and discernment. Old Croak lived in a mill pond with 10,000 other frogs. Each night he sang in the chorus, and their melody could be heard for miles. Upon reaching manhood, Croak felt a disquiet grow within himself, and he decided there was more to life than singing songs from the lily pads. "This incessant peeping and croaking is driving me mad," he said. "What I need is quiet." Bidding his friends goodbye one night, Croak made a gigantic leap into the darkness of anywhere but here. As it happened, a carnival, which had closed for the night, was located in the field beside the pond. Croak's mighty leap carried him up and over the pond and through a small opening into the very center of the House of Mirrors. Not knowing where he had landed, Croak sat huddled in the inky darkness of the closed hall of mirrors, awaiting the morning sunlight. Everything was silent, and strangely, Croak missed the chorus that evening. "Croak," said old Croak. His voice was louder than usual, and it echoed weirdly. It was more resonant as well, but there was no reply. "That's funny," said Croak. He was alone in his silence, and for the first time his disquiet included a sense of loneliness. The next morning, Croak opened his eyes to find himself in the center of 10,000 frogs. His loneliness disappeared immediately. "Aha," he said. "You decided to follow me here. Why didn't you answer me last night when I croaked?" 10,000 mouths moved, but no sound came from any of them. Croak was puzzled. "Why don't you answer me?" he asked. 10,000 mouths moved, but there was still no answer. Croak frowned. "What kind of a silly game is this?" 10,000 frogs frowned and moved their mouths, but there was only silence. "Is this the kind of punishment I get for complaining about singing in the chorus every night?" he asked. 10,000 mouths moved in silence. Croak stamped the floor in anger and threw himself into a double backward flip. 10,000 angry frogs stamped the floor and threw themselves into double backward flips. "What is this?" the surprised Croak wondered. "I thought I was the only one at the pond who could do a double backward flip," mumbled and humbled Croak. "They've been holding out on me," he said, sulking to the floor. 10,000 frogs mumbled silently. 10,000 frogs sulked to the floor. As the days went by, Croak came to several conclusions, almost metaphysical conclusions. "I've gone deaf," he thought. "Somehow the mighty leap from the lily pad has damaged my hearing." Then, more seriously, in the way of a good thinker who thinks a lot, he thought, "I'm being punished by God or by the other frogs. They are mocking me every move I make." But after a few more days, Croak's metaphysics turned deeper. He decided there was surely greater meaning behind the appearances than he first believed. "Aha!" he croaked. "There is real metaphysical significance here. Definitely. Yes, definitely. In the first place, I notice that no one moves unless I move. That's a hint. And if I hop a short distance, they hop a short distance. If I do a mighty backward double flip, they do precisely the same. It seems to me that what is being made plain here is that I am the power of the scene. Yes, yes, I am the power here. Everyone does what I do. Yes. Now there must be another step. Aha! Now I shall teach them to do what I say to do." "All right, you guys," said the reinvigorated Croak. "Enough of this togetherness stuff. I want to be alone. Therefore, I want all of you to get the hell out of here." 10,000 mouths moved, but that was all. "Okay, now," Croak began again. "All of you idiots pay attention to me. I am your teacher." He had their attention. "Leave the room," Croak ordered. 10,000 mouths moved, but no one left the room. "Well," thought Croak, "apparently I must lead the way and show them how to do what I say to do, because I want them to do what I want them to do." He ordered them to leave the room again, and this time, as he spoke, he jumped behind a piece of bric-a-brac on the floor. From behind the bric-a-brac, Croak could see only half the frogs in the room. "Good!" he shouted. "Good! Half of you crazy croakers have left the room just as I ordered. All right now, guys, all of you that are out of the room, stay out, and all of you that are still in the room, leave the room like this." As he said this, Croak leaped from behind the bric-a-brac. Promptly, half the frogs leaped from Croak's view, but the other half jumped back into the room. "Oh, come on, fellows, come on now." 10,000 frogs' mouths moved in insolent silence. "All right, let's try that again," said Croak. But wherever he hopped and whatever he did, he could never get all the frogs to leave the room. At one point, he leaped into a box and thought for a moment he was alone. Then, looking directly overhead, he saw 10,000 frogs peering down at him from identical boxes. "Smart asses!" shouted Croak, leaping back into the center of the room, followed by 10,000 mocking frogs. "I have learned to read lips, and you jerks just called me a smart ass," he moaned. "Oh, this is too much for me. I must be alone. I simply must get away from here." That night, Croak sat on the floor sobbing silently. He thought of the old days when the darkness was a time for singing and sunshine a time for playing. In those days, I wasn't leading the world of frogs, trying to make them do the things that was pleasing to me, he thought. Oh my, this world does everything I do, but nothing I tell it to do. Then, in anguish, he said, "I give up. I surrender." Whatever the scheme of things in this world, it is too much for me to fathom." At that moment, through his tears, Croak beheld a shaft of moonlight streaking through the hole in the wall. Without hesitation, and with no thought whatever for the consequence, Croak mustered every ounce of strength that he could find and leaped through the hole toward the moonlight above. It was a mighty, mighty leap, a backward triple somersault, full gainer, double twist, with a jackknife that put him over the house of the mirrors into a lily pad in the middle of the pond. "Hallelujah!" thought the relieved frog. The moonlight was very bright that night. Croak looked around, and not one of the 10,000 frogs was in sight. "At last I'm alone," he rejoiced in delight, to be answered by 10,000 voices celebrating his return. Croak was sort of glad. "They are saying what they want to say," he thought. "I'm not alone with myself any more, or am I?" Meanwhile, back at the House of the Mirrors, one mirror asked another, "Have you ever seen 10,000 frogs jump out of the room all at once like that?" "Goodness, no," the other mirror answered. "They sure died in a hurry, didn't they?" "They didn't die," said the first mirror. "They simply moved on to another plane of consciousness." "Plane splain? What does that mean?" "They're dead and gone," said the corner mirror. "I saw them all leap into the fire all at once." "They're still alive," another mirror said. "Hold my hand and I'll contact them." "Baloney. I tell you there are 10,000 dead frogs." Overhead, the moon, hearing the argument among the mirrors, whispered in moon talk, which is understandable only to mirrors, children, and whoever sits in the moonlight. "There was no life in the images, my friends. Therefore, life cannot leave the images. Isn't that so?" The mirrors whispered, "Yes, that makes sense. Yes, indeed." But they still didn't know there was only one frog. On the lily pad, in the pond, old Croak heard the moon too. He looked into the water beside his lily pad and saw the moon's reflection there. Suddenly he understood who the 10,000 frogs were. More importantly, he began to suspect who he was. The secret contains 3 slow steps. If someone were to come here today, and if by some marvel I could communicate so completely I could give him every secret I knew, it would do him very little immediate good in the world. How so? Because he must first build the self-confidence that he is indeed what has been revealed to him. This happens for us precept upon precept, and it takes time in the world. When that confidence is established, he alone builds his credibility in his world, a credibility he has in hand before he can set out to do for his subjective world what he knows is finally necessary to do. I am certain this is why I was given mysteries 40 years before I was told that my time had come. It will not take so much time for those who come to see me now. The elements of the secret: discovering the child, living the equation, subjectivism. These 3 constitute the living life of love. When the child is first discovered, one can barely believe what he has found. Then, when the equation is discovered, he ever so slowly gets the courage to live it. When the subjective idea finally and fully arrives, and he learns that he is the Christ itself to his own newly discovered subjective world, he is troubled mightily by the magnitude of the work He stands in utter amazement at what he is called upon to do for everyone. But with God's grace, he persists, here a little, there a little. It has been shown to me that the child I have found is soon to be found by many more in this, my subjective world. Those who find it within themselves will strengthen one another as they communicate in love and encouragement, one to another. They will give the necessary strength to those who have felt a measure of their findings. Then, as the equation is lived, they will encourage others to live it also, bringing the world into bloom with a new community of children. They will have the seed of the Father within them. A special letter. There are 3 difficult stages for our breakout into the light. Number 1, it is difficult to recognize that the child within is the same child we were when we were children. That is, it seems unbelievable that the way we saw things as a 6 or 7-year-old is the way we are actually capable of seeing things again, here and now, no matter what our human age, or that now we can go still further, see and find the infinite original of ourself. A necessary for a time veil hangs before the eyes and the heart, which produces the easy ability to think of the child as anything but a fantasy, a dream of Pollyanna. Number 2, equally slow and difficult is the understanding that the child within us is the actual Christ light of us. They are the same one, and they are we, I, us identity. And number 3, the third area of personal difficulty comes in our moving from theory and mental speculation about the child to action here in the world. Understandable mountains of human intransigence and disbelief stand between our recognition within and the world outside. It is only line upon line that our actions in the world are recognized in the world. Then, one day, one of those around us begins to see the child of us and the child of themselves. Bit by bit, here a little, there a little, our credibility grows. The wonders are seen and recognized. Finally, our entire subjective world, internal and external, responds. Without the child, first and foremost, the subjective view is nothing more than a personal attempt to manipulate the scene to our own advantage. Without the child, the equation can't be fully comprehended. Without the child, one is dead. Without the child and the child's equation, science founders without direction. Related papers 6 to 9. The starting place, or if God is all, why do I feel so rotten? Dear Beth, it is easy to pay lip service to the beautiful words of truth while we go right on believing the lie and living it. How many of us have said, yes, God is the allness of all, while we continue like a weather vane affected by every wind that blows? God is all, we say, and evil is just a seeming. Then we cower and scrape before the seeming that frightens us. Does this sound familiar? Of course it does, to all of us. The starting place is certainly the discernment that God actually is all in all. This is the beginning for those who want to come out from the endless trials and tribulations of human experience. But this beginning leads nowhere until we act in accord with it. Appearances change when actions based upon them change. The fearful seeming must be faced at some point. It is powerless, and we stand up to it as powerless. We make the determination to do this, and we are girded by angels from within and without. Then the nature of the threat changes. The sense of foreboding slips away, and we see it more clearly as the necessary learning experience it actually is, and was from the beginning. This lesson is neither good nor bad. It transcends that division. It is neither a foreboding nor a beneficent reversal of the appearance, as metaphysics so often teaches. Reality is infinitely more than the intellectual divisions we make into real and unreal, spirit and matter, good and evil, and the like. But Beth, this standing up isn't the end of our action either. We rejoice and give thanks, yes, but that is only the beginning. When we get through the difficulty, we don't return to it, or to our old routines with business as usual. There are more steps to take, more revelations to come, and more strength will be found, all leading us to really discover the child within. Oh, great goodness, the child shows us how to stand up to things. Yes, indeed. The child we are is most anxious to have us get out and up on top of the mountain, and get there in more than metaphysical profession. The child within us takes us there in actual fact. There we see the holy scene and take up our subjective scepter. There is no human situation we can get ourselves into that the child can't show us the way out of. The child of light, like the photon, is everywhere on the mountain at once. That inmost identity knows exactly what we need at the moment and gives it to us when we call for help. What is our help? The acknowledgement that the child is still right here, right now, available to help us. Find the eternal Christ child, Beth. You can. This is the first real step, and until one has done this, no matter how many years he has studied the truth, he has done nothing toward assuming his rightful heritage and dominion. Child equals heart equals soul, the overlooked simplicity. I have never talked heart to heart with a single person who hasn't admitted that the child was still there within him, struggling perhaps, or a distant dream from the past, but still there. All of us continue to dream dreams and wonder about soft things. The heart of us still goes leaping through the high places of imagination occasionally, and soars with the high-flying swallows to see the far side of the moon. That is the child at work. Yes, the child still lives. Moreover, this inner one, the old, new child of us, is healthy and well, absolutely all right in every way. None of its enthusiasm has been dulled by the years. Its eyesight is as sharp as an eagle's, its hearing keen as a puppy's, and all the feelings of youth are pounding with excitement, exactly as they did when we were children, unencumbered by the world. Much has been said about the heart of us, Great theological positions have been established around the immortal soul. Reader, listen with the heart of yourself for a minute. The little child of us, the heart of us, and the soul of us are the same one. Whatever we have come to perceive with the heart has been a recognition of that eternal child within. And now, as I write of this one, I address the heart, the soul, with which we are all concerned. Oh yes, the heart and soul of us, the child, is still right here, quite capable of confirming itself, evidencing itself, and revitalizing our view of everything. As the years pass and the world encroaches relentlessly, we lose sight of this original nature or identity, except as an old photograph or a memory etched somewhere in an inaccessible past. It comes as a surprise to hear that the original child and all its feelings are still around. Then it comes as a wonderment to learn firsthand that they are not inaccessible at all, but still right here, closer than breathing, closer than fingers and toes. There is an ageless mystery in our ability to find identity. As one reads these words about the child, the heart knows this is the truth, a truth hidden all these years in simplicity and childlikeness that we have left behind. When we are alone, we still play the child's game. While we are walking and driving or puttering with the pots, there is some little thing we do in the mind's eye exactly as we did as a child. There are ships and ports and storms at sea when we wash the dishes or take a bath. Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about. Deep inside you do. You see, I am the child too, the same child, and I have become it again. I know, by God, by the grace of God, what I'm writing here, and I know that the first step in feeling the joys of the real, as we did as children, is to acknowledge that the original nature of us hasn't left us. The historic Christ and the child. Bill, are you saying that the early church substituted the historic Christ for the child? No, churchdom has limited the Christ to the historic Jesus. And all of that has been done for a divine purpose the church seems to know little or nothing about. Everything that has happened is by God's grace. The historic Christ in linear time came, as all luminaries, to confirm our own subjective self-discovery. The historic Christ is the first begotten of the Father in world time, and the original believers had that straight. The discovery of the child within is confirmed by the Bible and its accounts of the historic Christ and his role on earth. The child I am, and you are, comes to us as the second coming, as Messiah rediscovered within, for whom the Bible and Jesus are the first or external confirmation. Are you saying that the child is the Christ also? Yes, exactly that. Closer than breathing, exactly as the historic Christ said. He would never leave us or forsake us. He has been there as the child of us from the beginning, our very child selfhood, which seems to go away from us and then returns to us, rediscovered. Well, William, tell me if this is what I've heard you saying these past few days. The child within is the same historic Christ? Yes, history, like all other things, is subjective. To rediscover the child is to find what Jesus found, lived, and confirmed before he began his ministry. When the historic Christ said he would be back again, he meant that each one who understood what he was saying would find the child within and recognize that self, himself, as the Messiah written in the heart, the second coming in actual fact. Are you also saying that when I was a child on earth, I was the Christ child? Yes, spiritually. And I'm saying that everyone can prove the truth for himself by finding that all the acute feelings of the original nature which were present in us as children are capable of returning to us again. You know, theology isn't going to agree with that, William. Perhaps neither theology nor the subjective groups, but all who feel the child within themselves will agree, because they will know it is the truth, having proven it for themselves. And when the theologians begin to perceive that this is indeed what is meant by the new covenant written in the heart, they will slowly, grudgingly give way, even those powerful conservatives so intent on going back to biblical literalism. Not without argument, not without doubt, not without questioning those who have found the child of themselves, and not without persecuting them mightily. Not everyone will be taken up in this light. Jesus foresaw it accurately. 2 are in the bed, and 1 is taken. 2 are in the field, and 5 are in the household. 2 against 3, and 3 against 2. Father against son. Those without consciousness of the child will not know which of the senses to believe, nor who in the world is telling the truth. Those who have found the child within won't care what the theologians or philosophers think. We leap through Spirit's door and leave the flaming house behind. The progression of awakening. The progression goes a little like this. One searches and thinks he is found, and grows arrogant in that finding for a time, hence to be humbled. Then he finds again and really knows. One lives this discovery and proves it. One keeps going onward and finds the relationships between himself and the outside. Many people never reach this point because no one has told them or convinced them that there is a relationship between the inside and the quantum outside, or that these two are a single one. One perceives the wholeness of outside because he has found it himself. One perceives the relationship between himself inside and the appearances outside in their increasing detail. This has been called the web of interrelatedness. A leaf falls to the earth and the universe is shaken. One comes slowly to know the marvel that will unfold outside from what has already unfolded within himself, and he lives in continuing expectancy of this unfolding in the world. One speaks to his world as seems best. All along this progression, one is faithful to those who have been given him. He tells them to go and do the same and instruct their given to do the same. we and those who have been given us become the new community, the flower of the tree of life. The community grows. This progression happens in linear time, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. It appears I have been kept in the middle of the river of life from the beginning, but only after all these years have I learned my relationship to the world and its relationship to me. I have known what will happen in time because it has already happened here as I identity in those glimpses of timelessness. It is the same for every man. Every man becomes the flower and the flower's seed. The seed survives. Letter to a Finder. Dear Jenna, it has found you. It has found itself within you. It is yourself that has found you. No man, not me, not anybody, can take credit for it, nor for that. You are worthy of it, or it would have never taken place in your heart. You are a credit to it, or you would have no consciousness of its presence. What did you do? I do not know precisely, but you are childlike, trusting, humble, open, gentle, caring, and altogether loving within yourself. And you love. Those are its qualities and attributes. Once it has come, it never leaves us or forsakes us unless we lose those qualities to pride or selfishness or arrogance, or, like Moses, try to take credit for it. The secret has found you. It is genuine. It is real. But the unenlightened know nothing of it and would profane and destroy it if they could. Don't worry about whether or not you can handle any situation. It, the child of yourself, and God, will take care of every circumstance the human of you ever finds itself in. It is its own proof. Nothing can speak for it except to praise it and herald it and declare the fact that it is. The child of you and the child of every man who makes himself worthy of it is the same child. We look for the real in everyone, even if it doesn't seem present there. We stand as solitaries in a world awash with illusion and falsity. Not everyone who says, "Truth, truth, Lord, Lord," is alive, though they seem to be worshipped and praised and become leaders of many. Many who appear to be ahead of us are behind us. Spiritual pride puts us behind those whom we think we are ahead of. Therefore, we treat everyone equally, even though many do not appreciate that nor turn to thank us, but condemn us and say that it never happened. You have come alive in it because it is alive in you. I am full of delight because of your self-discovery, and I love you very much. But don't give me credit that is due yourself and God. It is a marvel, isn't it? I suspect you will have the joy of being its minister to many. With it, you can do anything good that is given you to do for it. Watch and see. It gets better and closer and more wonderful yet. It doesn't diminish. I thank you for your honest trust. What is grace? You are. Related Papers 10 to 14. The me sense and the intellect. I have learned that one cannot toss the intellect out the window, as so often seems the case when one first discovers the heart of himself, or metaphysics. The intellect is not the old man to be put off. The intellect is that part of awareness that deals with tangibility, the images of perception, the images of people, places, and things which appear within as awareness. The intellectual nature of us has to do with reading, writing, and arithmetic, and how to cross the road without being hit by a bus. Now that I've had a chance to examine these things more, I have not found anyone in all of human history who has done more than subdue the intellect and its view of things. The ego is something else, and the ego, like the intellect, is to be understood. Before we found the heart, we gave all power and authority to the intellect. With the discovery of the heart, we tried in vain to banish the intellect, to no lasting avail. But the struggle was good and necessary because it gave us practice in listening to the heart. Now, we are heart-led and intellect-wary, making sure the intellectual evidences are seen in their application to tangibility and as the confirmation of the heart's declarations. There is a precise balance between the heart and the intellect, inside and outside. In Metadelphia, we hear that this is to worship two masters. Not so. The heart and intellect are a two that are one, just as the line and the plane are two dimensions of a greater single sphere. So are the heart and intellect two dimensions of something greater, Godhead. And just as the plane is greater than the line, so is the heart greater than the intellect. Just as the line doesn't understand the plane, but the plane certainly understands the line. Exactly so. The heart knows all about the intellect, which knows little or nothing about the heart. Is this clear thus far? Remember, we haven't gotten to the old man yet. The ego, the old man, the me sense is, like the serpent, more subtle than the intellect. We knew it had to be, especially when every attempt to get rid of it ended in failure. In my study with others, we have been diligently careful to point out exactly what the mortal mind, ego, me sense, the old man, pretends to be. Hence, we subdue the intellect, but we don't try to destroy it either in the world or within ourselves. Our most fervid anti-organizational and anti-social tendencies are present during this inner battle as we come to understand this point. Eventually, we awaken to a balance between heart and intellect, wherein the heart is greater. Dear friend, in my living I have found an inner guide that I can faithfully depend on. This seems a good time to remind you of it. We are prone to overanalysis and overstudy. The intellect of us loves to study and ponder enigmas. It will make a mystery of something that is perfectly clear to the heart. So, in all things, keep to simplicity. Wherever intellectual knowledge leads to something the heart already knows, they touch at a point of utter simplicity. Therefore, I implore you to keep the truth simple. It is simple. It is too obvious for words like these. What about the me sense, someone asks? The me sense, the ego, the old man, the deceiver, is a superimposition over the heart and intellect. The me sense says, "This is my awareness." In truth, there is no such me to say my. But we have all believed in this big me who says, "My life, my awareness, my view of things." As the Bible declares, there is not one of us who doesn't seem guilty of this. This is not a guilt, but a necessary part of ongoingness and self-discovery. We struggle with ego in order to comprehend the nature of egolessness, God. The me sense is a fiction, and we disavow it as quickly as we can. How? By the recognition of its very good service in our behalf. God knew what he was doing. The me sense is the delineation of the divine identity. It is the shadow of the tree that leads straightway to the tree. We understand the purpose ego serves and forgive it, thence to need it no longer. Ego. I don't have enough faith and I don't have enough understanding, Ho said. Oh, of course you don't, Han answered. You never have had and never will have. God is the faithful one, God, not man. And God has total faith in himself, total trust and understanding of himself. God is the faithful, trusting, and understanding one. God, not man. But what about me? Who am I? Ho asked. Our identity is life, Han answered slowly and patiently. The very life that asks that question is divine life, God life. Life is awareness. Life is witnessing, seeing, beholding. We are the seeing of God. But God is the faithful one, the trusting and knowing one. We have not to do but be the faithful witness of good. We are the good, beholding itself everywhere, because the life we are is the life divine. Then what is this me sense that I superimpose and call my identity? Asked Ho. This is the deception, the fraud, the fatherless bastard, the liar from the beginning. Right here, right now, we are God's self-awareness, the awareness of God. The superimposition of the me sense is nothing claiming to be something most persistently. Furthermore, this is exactly how it is supposed to be for a time, delineating timelessness, until we emerge from the enshrouding cocoon. How so? The me sense is the delineation of the divine identity. The ego is the delineation of the egoless I. How would I know the real without facing the false and seeing beyond it? Could I know what light is without having stumbled into darkness? Would I know what health is without having known discomfort or disease? But listen, listen, friend Ho. The light is real. The delineating darkness merely degrees between right and wrong, good and evil, inside, outside, above, below, male, female, and all the rest of the delineating distinctions that adversely outline the all one. Author's journal entry. Awareness doesn't have faith, it is faith. God's faith in the very action of happening. Awareness doesn't have trust, it is trust in the act of trusting. Awareness doesn't have understanding. God has self-knowledge, and this awareness is that self-knowledge happening. As awareness, I look, I behold, I see, I rejoice, I laugh, and I joy. As awareness, I do not have to understand. I do not have trust or to trust something else. God does that, and I am that doing happening effortlessly, here and now. Those who are ready to hear this move to childlikeness and simplicity and are indeed ready. Those who need more of timelessness's time to incubate will understand little that is written here. Oh, but those with the receptive heart will hear the Hallelujah chorus. The child will hear and understand, rejoice and act in accordance. No more linear time is necessary than that. The child isn't bound by the world's time. On having sufficient faith. To humankind, the ultimate meaning of faith is one's total belief in God. Men are continually wondering if they have enough faith. The one who has recognized the subjective idea that God is one and all, and is willing to believe that, is called on to perceive and live quite another meaning of faith. He perceives that since God is all in all, there is no separate identity to have faith or not have faith. He sees that there is no way for a fiction to have real faith and understanding at all. God is the one who has faith in himself, Godhead, and there is no other faith in all the universe. Listen, the human achiever doesn't exist in real fact. He is the mortal myth, like flat earth. He is the old man to be understood and put off. We do not have to identify as that one, albeit we all do until we feel something within the heart of us whispering a song of ongoingness and newness. God really is all in all. God's faith in himself is sufficient for everything. It is a rare privilege to comprehend and affirm this. It removes an awful load of human guilt from us. We are able to end the worry about whether or not we have enough understanding or enough faith. We know we have enough because we are God's own self-awareness, confidently seeing God's good everywhere. But Samuel, this doesn't get down to the nuts and bolts of the human experience. How can I take such flowery idealism and do anything practical with it here in the real world? Does this sound familiar? It's a good question. We have all asked it, and it deserves a clear answer. You will see that this is a question we re-ask ourselves throughout our experience and are called to answer it again and again from all points of the compass until the little whisper of subjective comprehension occurs. Somewhere along the line, we look around and see that man has never had enough faith or understanding, even the greatest men ever eulogized as people of great faith, but never enough faith. Else they could have solved the world's problems and perhaps still be here. But God has enough faith to create the earth, the solar system, the galaxy, and the whole blinking, sparkling universe, plus this very life we are here and now, the same life the reader is this instant. Listen gently. This awareness we are is God's life. Awareness is in the perceiving business, isn't it? We are constantly perceiving thoughts, ideas, images, things, and situations to infinity. Who is doing the perceiving? God is, not you or me or anyone else. Oh, my friends, Mary, John, Jack, and all, we are the living mind of God and have always been. God has sufficient faith in this awareness, else there would be no awareness. But it is God who is faithful and knowledgeable and full of grace. It is God who is understanding. Do you see the gentle wonder of this? You can. Be still. Be kind to yourself. Sit easy. Turn within and ask the child heart of yourself whether or not there is merit in these words. Aunt Nellie. Aunt Nellie introduced my family to metaphysics. She was a wonderful lady with a great sense of humor and a terrible temper. We remember her most for her insistence that everything, absolutely everything, was unreal. She was also famous for reversing everything and getting the parts of the body mixed up, calling her elbow her knee, her finger her toe, and so forth. Her most memorable mix-up came in answer to my question as a little boy. "How come you're so smart, Aunt Nellie?" She smiled sweetly, tapped her temple several times with a long finger, and said, "Kidneys, my boy. God didn't give me these kidneys for nothing." Aunt Nellie was also very good at giving everyone instructions on anything and everything, and using big words to do it, like supposititiously and instantaneously. "You mustn't say anyone died," she told everyone who would listen. "You say they have passed on." Each word is to be said with the same emphasis, because death is supposititious, you see. Her own passing into the supposititiousness happened as she was looking for a favorite passage in her beloved textbook, and walked in front of a streetcar. Aunt Nellie and the streetcar were derailed simultaneously and instantaneously. The first inclination is to tell everyone of the truth we have found, said Han. But let our first inclination be to live it. Then, after we've lived it for an honest week or two, we'll know better how to talk about it. "I agree, old man," said Ding. "Too much talking means not enough doing. I had better get home and hide the wine from my husband." Letter to Elaine, overtone. Dear Elaine, my goodness, I shook your confidence in me, didn't I? That's good. The true teacher is inside yourself, at your very center. The honest teacher in the world tells you that in the most graphic, simple, feelable way possible, as quickly as circumstances permit. Listen gently, Elaine. Letter 2 led you straight to the ego that you might feel the nastiness of that nearly eternal clump of necessary ugliness. Now that you know the part of yourself that felt offended, hurt, anguished, you know what to come out from and be separate from. All that reacted, that felt hurt, that wrote 25 pages to defend itself and explain its position, is the not you, not I, the fatherless bastard without root that grows outside the garden. That is what we stop associating with. That is what binds us to more and ever more of the same. Elaine, you can try until hell freezes over, but you will never lift that one up to comprehension. You will never heal it or justify it. Its purpose is to lead you to you, thence to dominion and peace. It has done that now. Now you can thank God, thank it, and have done with it. Now you can have to do with God instead of your own nature. You write, Letter 1 was supportive. Of what? That intellectual bag of opinions you're trying to lift up to God in some sort of saintly offering? No, I support your self-discovery. That discovery isn't made by the intellectual thinker, but the thinker loosed and let go. We finally, somewhere along the line of birth and rebirth, surrender the attempt to be the thinker, to let the thinker be the thinker, and we become the thinking of the thinker in wonder and awe. Letter 2 allowed you to feel the greedy grasper and the shallow identity, the one who is offended, the one who tries to understand, the one who is hurt, the one who hurts others, and who thunders and wonders about the evil in the world, ignoring the wonder who is being the world. I was introduced to myself in the most anguishing, painful ways. You do not have to suffer as I did, but you seem hell-bent to do it anyway. Out of old habit, I suppose, just like the soldier of me. Now that you have met the nasty one, what will you do? Nurse her back to health or let her go? How does one do that? In emptiness and helplessness, asking God's help and confidently expecting it, because that help will be coming shortly. Elaine, there is no way short of making the sharp turnaround from self to self. You have found an external revelator who tells you of the final revelator within you. But you question his integrity, his patience, his ability, his view, and his authority, and have no real knowledge of the anguish that permits these words to be written to you. If you can't trust one who has touched down on the heart of yourself, someone you can see and touch, how will you trust the one in whom you live and move and have your being, whom you can't see? As the young people say, the ball is in your court now. P.S. There is much you can do for the world in the turmoil ahead. You can tell of the world that underlies and is intermingled with appearances. But one can't tell about the wonder that there is here until he has found it, and one doesn't find it until he looks for it. If the shadow world didn't apparently exist, one would never know the real. It's really quite a wonderful plan, Elaine, with nothing cruel, insensitive, or horrible about it. An enormous love is in action here. Anything that awakens the sleeper is painful to the sleeper. Yet, sleep is the means by which I know God's wakefulness and onlyness. Enclosed is a letter from an old journal that will be helpful. About feeling good. There is a genuine relationship between seeing good and feeling good. Who can deny that certain sights bring good feelings with them, or that certain feelings permit the scene at hand to disclose beauty and wonderment that might not have been seen otherwise? But there is something deeper than that. Behind good and its dualistic partner evil is the greater good, their basis in being. Exactly so, behind feeling good and feeling bad is a transcendent grandness, which I don't know what to call, but love. Not love as opposed to hate, but the source for the dualistic pair, love and hate. It is a superlative feeling that, when I am aware of it, elicits the repeated remark, "I feel so good I can hardly stand it." What is occurring here, to be written, is along this line. One can't make a separation between seeing good and feeling good, yet that separation happens in our daily affairs all the time. One sees something good first and then begins to feel good about it. Or one can anticipate Christmas like a child and then, later in time, see the events of Christmas Day. When I look to see good, am I not also looking to feel good? Yes. That's one of the primary reasons for the search for God, in order to feel better and have a happier human experience. And when I anticipate good, isn't it for the same reason? Essentially, yes. But I have perhaps rationalized other reasons too. I would like to think I look for good because God is the substance of every sight, and to see the good in something is to see the God there. Likewise, the anticipation in time is the only means of acknowledging the alreadiness of Godhead. So, I look and anticipate, hoping to feel the superlative love, good, beyond reason and logic. There is no gainsaying. I have been feeling the power and authority of something quite beyond the ordinary. What is coming into print here is the tangible, printed connection between seeing and feeling, the two that are one. What is it that so seems to separate them in the tangible scene? The passions are the things that self-evidently prevent one from seeing good. Who can see the happy cup of coffee while he's fretting over the automobile accident? Who can see anything good when looking through the eyes of greed, jealousy, or envy? If one cannot see good in things or events during those angry, passionate moments, how can he be expected to feel good then? He can't. If one denies himself the opportunity to see the cup of coffee that's right in front of himself, can he be expected to see the superlative good being the cup of coffee? Clearly, no. The answer seems certain. And if one seems denied the opportunity to feel simple human good feelings, can he be expected to feel the superlative love, good behind everything? It seems not again. But God is good. His mercy is everlasting. His blessings are denied no one. The peace that passeth understanding can happen at any time. It can break right through. And with the child, it does. This is a mystery.